I'm just gonna say it, role-playing games have one of the lowest cost to highest entertainment ratios out there. With as little as $0, you can get hours upon hours of joy and entertainment from these games. You may have seen some epic setups online like Critical Role or even my bookshelf, which has gotten a little out of hand. But you don't have to spend a lot of money to have entertainment from role-playing games. This video is all about sticking to a budget, saving that money, and playing a crap ton of role-playing games. So here are my top 4 tips for playing role-playing games on a budget. Number 4, stick to the basics. So what do I mean by that? I mean, you only really need a core rulebook, so the basic rules you need to play the game, a set of dice, a piece of paper, a pencil, and friends. And you don't need to buy your friends. Number 3, let's talk about the books. So my first tip here is that you don't have to buy every single book associated with that game. You only need the bare minimum to have the rules so you can play the game. For example, D&D has a ton of different books and source books and different things that you can reference, but you only need 2 to be able to play the game. And for Call of Cthulhu, there's a lot of different scenarios and campaigns, investigator, rulebook, all those different things, but you only need the Keeper's Handbook to actually get started. So do some research, figure out what book you actually need for the core rule set, and you're good to go. In addition, you can save some money by only buying the PDF, and that's going to save you money versus having the physical book. But let's take it one step further. There are actually free role-playing games on DriveThruRPG and itch.io. A lot of different indie authors are just trying to get their game out there, so there's a ton of content that you can choose from where you wouldn't even have to purchase a PDF or a physical book. And my final point on this is people are always looking for play testers for their new role-playing games. So if you want to give back to the community a little bit, you can always sign up to be a play tester and help out these game designers who are just trying to figure out the right balance and making sure that their games are fun. Number 2, the dice. Now, there's so many dice out there, and they're really cool and tempting to spend a lot of money on, but you don't need to. So you could either just get one set for yourself or one set and share among your friends, or you can buy in bulk and just share all of these dice with your friends instead. There are a lot of different options when it comes to dice, and don't feel like you have to spend a lot of money on it. And let's say you don't even want to spend money on dice, well, you can just use your phone. There are a lot of apps on here where you can just choose what type of dice you're rolling and it'll give you a random result. So you don't even need to spend the money on the dice if you don't want to. And number 1 is all about the extras. So as a free option, you can always rely on theater of the mind, which is exactly what it sounds like. You are describing and envisioning everything that happens in your brains. But if you're looking for a grid and different things to help visualize combat, those extras can really start to add up in price. So here are my top tips for working through all of that. My first tip here is to create your own grid. So, just swipe a couple pieces of paper from your college campus, tape them together, and you're good to go. If that feels oddly specific to you, it's because it is. This is my homemade grid from when I was in college, and I used 6 sheets of paper, used a ruler and a pen, and just drew all the grid lines on here and taped it together. And I can tell you, we literally still use this grid to this day, so it definitely serves its purpose. And what about the other extra stuff that makes combat come to life on the grid? Well, normally people would use miniatures, but those can get really pricey. So instead, you have a lot of different alternatives. You could use some extra dice you have laying around, some pennies, maybe even some marbles. These work really well, especially with different colors, and you can differentiate who is who. So there's a ton of different options, paper clips, literally anything you have laying around to denote who is in what square. Let's talk about the GM screens. So they often come with games, and it's basically just a barrier for you to hide your notes and rolls from the players. And then they have rules references on the inside. But you don't need all of this. Basically, you could just use any old book you have laying around as a separation or a folder. The ultimate goal is to make sure that you would have reference for the rules that you might easily be forgetting. As you learn what rules you have to keep looking up, make your own reference and have that printed out. Part of my mission is to make role-playing games less intimidating and to share my hobby with as many people as possible. So consider diving in and trying this out for free, and you might end up getting addicted to it, but for now it's really, really low cost, and you might end up having hours upon hours of fun. I'm XPLovecat, and I make videos about GM advice, player advice, specific games like Cyberpunk Red and Call of Cthulhu, if you're interested in checking out more of my content over here. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.